Okay, here is the setup for FPV Drone Bowling. I've got a 6-foot table here, and the pins are just some, 16-ounce spring water bottles with some electrical tape on there. I put some black striping on there to kind of help it show up better on camera, and so I can see them more clearly through the drone's feed. And also for the Mavic, which I'm going to have up in the air to see from top down, so we're not just looking through clear plastic. So I have a couple cameras set up here. I have the DJI Action 2 facing this direction to get a 4K 120 frames per second shot of the drone coming overhead and making impact with the bottles to capture that in a nice slow motion shot. I have the GoPro Hero 11 Black Mini set up to the right of the bottles, and that is set to 2.7K at 240 frames per second, again for slow motion, even slower. I'll be slowing that one down to 10% playback speed in post to get a nice angle here, like similar to this, of the drone making that impact and smashing through all those bottles. I do have a little bit of water in each of these, the same amount in each to kind of keep it nice and balanced. So that way the Mavic won't be blowing those things over, and so any gentle breeze won't be interfering with the layout here. So I already mentioned here that I'll be using the Mavic 3 for a straight down shot from above, using the nice gimbal on that Mavic 3 to get that straight down angle with no props in view of a top down shot. I'll be shooting that at 4K 120 to slow that down as well. The drone I'll be using for this, so here's my FPV drone. This is the BetaFPV Pavo 30. The reason I chose this drone is because it's one of my older drones that I don't care as much about. So I'll be fine if this thing gets destroyed in the process. It already has some damage from one of my previous videos where I tried to land this thing on my chimney and it didn't work as I had originally planned it. You could check out my older videos. I believe that one was a short. But anyway, it still holds up pretty well, and this thing does not fly well in the wind, so thankfully it's not very windy today. But this is equipped with the Caddx Polar camera, which will be recording at a 720p. So I'll probably include some of the actual DVR footage in this video as well, so you get that kind of drone cockpit perspective, smashing right into the bottles. So here's the controller for the Mavic 3, and I'm using the TBS Tango 2 Pro to control the FPV drone. I'll be using the DJI V2 goggles here with the Lumineer AX2 HD 2 patch antenna set up there, in case you're curious about that. So the goal here is to get a strike. So I'll be taking off from somewhere and then flying up that way, straight down the gut here, and trying to knock down all 10 of these water bottle pins. We'll see how this thing goes. I'm also going to be using the Canon R6 mirrorless camera here, set up at this angle, just like this, shooting at 4K 60 to give you another perspective with a higher quality sensor, just to give you even more, angles with all the action that's kind of happening here today. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cameras in total filming this. And yeah, the whole purpose of this is just to knock these bottles over. So not really trying to change the world with this one, but we are trying to have some fun. So here we go. We're going to be taking off in just a minute. Let's see if I can get myself a strike. So the Pavo 30 held up pretty well for bowling. You saw a couple of those hits were pretty nasty. Some of those it recovered, others not so much. And the only real damage that it sustained during all of that was on the XT30 connector on the actual drone there. Let me see if I can focus on it. There was a little bit of a crack. And it caused a problem when I changed the battery. I noticed that it wasn't doing the full power on tune, and then of course I couldn't arm it. So I ended up bracing it with a small stick and some electrical tape to kind of keep it in position so it was able to, have that, solid connection and get power to the drone. So it's going to live to fly another day. No prop damage and no camera damage, thankfully. So I'll just have to throw a new XT60 connector on the end of that and we'll be good to go. So there you have it, everyone. FPV Drone Bowling. If you want to do this yourself, I would recommend setting little dots like this so that way when you're putting the bottles on, you can kind of see through them to make sure you have it lined up and centered, so that way you're not, wasting time making sure everything is nice and even. Kind of just makes it a little bit easier. So that was a ton of fun. This was just my first foray into FPV drone bowling. It was a weird idea that I had one day, and I may end up doing this again because this was a fun kind of activity with FPV drones. Always got to find new things to keep this exciting. I kind of get bored with just regular flying all the time. Kind of like to mix things up. So if you like this kind of stuff, please throw a like on the video. Consider subscribing to the channel, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks.